Hi, so I have a blog spot and it is the ultimate real relationship at blogspot.com and it's called Are Your Ears Clean? So I just kind of wanted to read you part one and part two of Tanya Calderon, and I wrote this like September 6th of 2014. So a lot has transpired in the last 4 years. Um, So I'll just start. I grew up with a very strict mother, the one that wouldn't let you hang out with friends your age, but babysit her kids all day. When I was little, I knew I was on my own from jump. Moms moved around a lot, and guys, well, they played a major role in her life. I guess she was looking for acceptance from someone. My mother and father got married at the age of 17. That didn't last long, and when my dad left her, he left me too. Like, moved to the East Coast, forgot about me, so here goes my abandonment issues. What I never understood was how do two people who both come from two parent homes have their only child together and leave her to fend for herself? During the first couple years of my life, my grandparents raised me. My grandfather was my father and told me I was the most beautiful girl on the face of the earth. Took me with him everywhere he went. I value that love I received from him in the beginning of my life. It was a great foundation for Tanya. Okay, my mom years later had more kids by a cop that already had kids with several females and was married to one. Between the ages of 5 and 7, I was sexually abused twice by grown men. One time, my mom slept in the same room as the guy who was, I must have been like six, no, it was like 7. And the guy is like performing oral on me as a kid, and my mom is sleeping in this room, like on this bed in the corner. Um, I get up, I see this guy, I'm super quiet. I'm like, no, 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 stop. Walk him to the door. The guy empties everything out of his pockets, and I go into the bathroom and I kind of just sit on the toilet, and I'm like, why? Like, why did that happen? I went and put the money and the cigarettes that I got from this guy in my mom's purse, and when she woke up the next morning, she had no idea that the extra money and cigarettes that she found in her purse came from some trauma that would affect me for a long time in my life. So then, like I said, my mom moved around a lot, and I don't remember how we became homeless, but we were staying in our friend's attic when that situation happened. I do remember we were sleeping in parks. My mom got us kicked out of our aunt's house that summer that we were homeless. We moved to a shelter in another city because my mom's boyfriend lived somewhere else. So whatever house we were living at, we weren't living at it anymore. We went to go stay in the shelter in Waukesha, and at which time my mom would sneak the guy into the shelter, but we couldn't go stay at his house, and I was super young, so I really didn't understand it. Um, Now I go on in my blog and I talk about now this should make your stomach feel some type of way. I felt sick typing it, and I have no feeling about it now because it's just something that happened. It's very sad, but it happens every day. Long story short, I was in foster care 2 times. The first was for 6 months when we had first moved to Waukesha because my mom had left us out there with my uncle's like baby mama's family, and they called social services. My mom was in a bar in Milwaukee, so we stayed out in Waukesha for 6 months while my mom got her act together, apparently. But while we were out there, my mom would come and see us on the weekends, and we would go to catechism, and I hated it. Real life hated it. Like, was terrified of Jesus. Like, my upbringing was, don't sing at the table because the devil's behind you, or, the kukui is gonna get you, or, something really funky. Um, but like, so we went to catechism, and I never really believed that this whole Jesus person would be able to save me if he's stuck on a cross. There's nothing that he could do, because he couldn't get himself out of that situation, and I was totally wrong. So my mom would come and get us on Saturday mornings, and I hated it because it just, like I said, it definitely scared me. Um, and I wasn't really aware of the idol worship that was happening at that time, or like in the culture that you're in. Like, for us, like I'm part Mexican and Puerto Rican, and they have like santitos or saints that they put up, and one likes money, one likes candy, one likes this, one like that, one likes that. If you pray, you could do something to stop people from talking. Like this might seem crazy to people, but this whole thing really does like exist. So, long story short, I was in foster care two more times. Like I said, the first 6 months was out there in Waukesha. And the next time was when we had moved back to Milwaukee. And I don't, my mom had gotten in contact with my grandma again, and my grandma was selling dope. I am not lying about any of this. So in the early 90s, my grandma sold dope and she had two dope houses. My mom said that she was like given an 8 ball to mop a floor, and I thought an 8 ball was the size of a magic 8 ball. So I was like, oh my gosh, you're doing a lot of drugs. But like, it went from her smoking dope to her smoking crack, and then everything in our house slowly disappearing, and us having to be removed again. So this is like early 90s. We go and we stay with like some family members first, and then we leave there and we go and stay in a foster home, like right in the hood, like on 15th and Walker, with this family that had like foster homes on the whole block. So, four of us together, and then my little brother was separated. Eventually my mom got us back again. And, when I was like 13, I had a choice to either stay there or leave and go be with my family. And I thought that I would have more freedom if I was with my family, but it was actually more responsibility, because when you're the first child in the family, everything is put on your shoulders. Like if you come from a single parent home, you are now the other parent and you have to pick up the slack. And obviously you're not bringing in any money. So, it's with duties or whatever it is. So I go back home, and like within a year I'm pregnant, and I'm in 8th grade, and I'm going to have my first child, and I'm so slow. I don't know which direction is north, south, east, or west. And my father, who I had not seen for practically my whole life, because I'm only 15 at this time, reaches out to me and wants me to come out to Pennsylvania. So I go out to Pennsylvania. I'm out there for like 2 weeks. My mom calls out there and says that he's raping and molesting me, and he puts me back on a plane, and I come back to Milwaukee and I stay with my mom. And when I left, I had like a book bag full of clothes. When I came back with like 2 duffel bags full of clothes, one for me and one for my daughter. My mom had given away my stuff, and girls were wearing my clothes and my daughter's clothes. And my mom was just, I don't know what it was, but she was just utterly against me. So I was in her house for a little bit, and then she was doing coke, so I left, and then she called the police on me, and I had to go back and stay with her. And I think we got into a fight because like I was in high school and I had to go get WIC or something, so I skipped school and whatever. And when I walked into the house, like she tried slapping me, and I'm kind of like, you've beat me up my whole life. Like I'm not gonna let you put your hands on me, and I have a child. So we got to arguing, and at that point, like I was no longer afraid of my mother, and just really didn't respect anything that she said. So I left with my daughter, and kind of just, I don't even know how I made it. I can't tell you how I made it. It's by the grace of God that I made it. So 15 years old with the kids, staying with random people. My daughter's father was like 2 years older than me. So when he was like 18, 19, we got an apartment. We were together. I had another child. So I'm like 18 with 2 kids. Like this is when W-2 first came out, and I was getting paid like $600 to go and learn some clerical skills when I was 19. And now, mind you, I didn't graduate high school. Like I had so much family drama that I dropped out of high school, and my mom was playing so many games with daycare. Like it was just better if I didn't go to school. So, 19, I seen this ad in the paper to become a phlebotomist, and I took it. Was not a high school graduate. I was one of the 10 people out of like 200 something that they picked to train. And God had blessed me with that. And I really wasn't walking with him the way that I should have been walking with him, but like, I knew who God was. Like that's instilled in you if you're Hispanic. Like God is real. Like this is a real thing, but it's mainly on Sundays or when the church bus comes to get you. So, I have another child in 1999. So now I'm 20 years old with three children and living in a Polish flat. That year of like 2000, my brother was in a gang, and my mother had went to prison, and I had a little sister. Well, I'm the oldest, so everybody else was younger than me. A lot of stuff happened. Like that summer, I tried to kill myself. Like I took 5,500 milligram Tylenol, and I just figured that anything was better than this. Like my mom was in prison. She was getting child support for her children, and they were living at my house, and we were getting no money. And, she was just putting her trust in everybody else. And I had to sit here and deal with the situation. My brother was out here reckless. My sister was out here reckless. My 16-year-old sister was out here like just, it was whatever, there was no structure. And their father was a police officer who cared absolutely nothing about them. So I take these 5,500 milligram Tylenol, and I'm sitting in the bathroom, and I take them, and then I kind of started to feel like high a little bit, and I just kind of start swaying back and forth, and I hear something say, and it's not like out loud, like in my head. It's like, it's almost over. It feels good. You're almost done. And I start cutting right here in my AC. I'm a phlebotomist. I know that I need to cut an artery if I really want to, cause some damage. So I'm just sitting there and I'm swaying back and forth. The blood is coming out. The blood is coming out. And I'm just like, okay, it's almost over. It's almost over. I'm almost done. And something out of nowhere is kind of like, well, what about your kids? And I kind of like shook out of it. And then I called my sister, and she called my aunt, and I went to the hospital, and they stuck me in this room with this lady who just talked about Jesus the entire time. Now, mind you, I had brief encounters with Jesus when I was younger, and none of them were positive. Like for 2 years straight, I would dream that demons were coming to get me, that, the devil was in my house. I legit wanted to kill myself when I was younger because my life was so hard. Like my mom hated my father, so she hated me, and I was nothing. I was never going to be useful. I was a nobody. My mom at one point had called me a nigger, and I guess that's supposed to be something bad because I'm the darkest one. And I'll just tell you right now, I forgive my mother for everything that she has ever done because she didn't know no better, so she couldn't do any better. But, everything that she did, she might have thought that, and I don't even know if she knew why she was doing certain things, but they helped me to grow and become the woman that I am today. So, after that encounter with Jesus, I tried to sell drugs, and it real life was crazy because it was like my friend's brother was a drug dealer, and I would go and hang out with him, and then I'm doing runs for him, and I don't think I ever made any money like drug dealing, so I would definitely not encourage that or even try to promote that. Some people might be successful, but I'm telling you right now, I was not one of those people. Needless to say, I was at home one day and my sister was like, hey, call so-and-so so we can use their car and we can go get our nails done. And I called that person and they're like, well, I'm busy over here. If you can get a ride, then that'll be okay. And my brother's friend happens to come through the door, which like never happens. And he gives me a ride over there. I go over there. We smoke a blunt. We go to make our first drop off. And then he gets to tripping because he sees a sensor on the back of a garage. And he goes, oh my gosh, there's cameras everywhere. The police are watching us or whatever. And I'm like, you're tripping, whatever. And then he gives me this dope. Like, I don't know how much it was, but it was worth like $2,000. And it's all rocked up. And I have it. I'm like dressing super like, I don't know, emo-ish at the time or whatever. So I have this really long skirt and these pants underneath. And I stick the dope between my pants and my panties. And we go down to Taco Bell on the south side. And, when you come into the driveway, cars are, one's parked this way and one's parked this way. Well, two cars were facing this way, so we go around to the drive-through, and then at the end of the block is Burger King, and there's normally a cop there, and I'm telling him like, look, I don't feel okay about this. I don't feel right about this. Now, mind you, and he had told the guy on the phone like, look, have the money ready so we could be in and out, done, whatever. And dude gets in the car, and then dude ends up saying, oh man, she's over here tripping. She thinks something's, crazy. Like we're going to get flicked by the police or whatever. Dude's like, no, it's okay. She's wilding out. And, he's supposed to have like $1,000. He goes, all I got is $1,000. Dude wants to see the product. So then we pull out, dude gets out the car, that police car that was down at the end of the block comes and gets us. I get pulled out of the car by my hair and a shotgun to the back of my head. And, mine before that, like I was trying to get the dope out, and all of a sudden, the minute I shoved the dope under the seat, like, here we go, we're getting pulled out of the car. And that right there just completely stopped me from ever trying to drug deal again or anything. And, dude went on and all charges were dropped against me. Like, I went in and pled the fifth or whatever. So I just like kind of moved on with my life after that and just worked and, was single for a while, and I did like a number of things, but I had like more children later on. I just wanted to go ahead and give you a kind of brief view of where I've been and some of the things that I've experienced, because this walk with Jesus is real. It's transformed me inside and out. And if he can do it for me, he can do it for you. You don't have to do this alone. You are not alone. I just hope that, while I do these, that you're encouraged by them and that God gets the glory. And, see you later.